I woke up that morning expecting nothing more than the usual October chill, the kind that creeps under your skin and makes your joints ache before the coffee even starts to work. But when I stepped outside, I froze, not because of the cold, but because my entire winter firewood pile, 6 months of chopping and stacking, was gone. Every single log. Vanished. And taped to my fence was a white sheet of paper stamped with the HOA logo. Unauthorized materials removed for community compliance. That one line hit harder than the wind. They didn't just take my firewood, they took the warmth my daughter and I needed to survive winter. I live at 228 Cedar Hill, a quiet neighborhood that stopped feeling quiet the day Karen Davenport became HOA president. She's the kind of woman who turns rules into weapons, wearing red blazers like battle armor and smiling like she owns the street. Before she took over, people actually liked living here. Now everyone keeps their heads down and their lawns measured to the inch. I guess I made the mistake of thinking I could stay off her radar. I was wrong. When I called the HOA office, I got her assistant Carol, whose voice sounded like she was permanently bored. "Mr. Riley, that was President Davenport's decision," she said. "The woodpile violated Article 14.3 of Community Standards." I clenched my jaw. That wood was on my land, behind my fence. She sighed. President Davenport determined that it extended into HOA-maintained land. I felt my blood pressure spike. Maintained land. It's a patch of dirt behind my shed. "You're welcome to file a dispute," she added sweetly, "but the materials have already been removed." Removed? Stolen, more like it. I hung up before I said something I'd regret, though regret was already burning in my chest. I looked over the deed, the survey maps, the photos, everything showing exactly where my property ended. It was mine, all of it. And yet in her eyes, that didn't matter. Karen's rules were law here. Still, I needed proof. So I checked my porch camera. Thank God I'd installed it. And there she was. Karen herself, clipboard in hand, supervising 2 men loading my wood onto a flatbed truck in the middle of the night. Grinning. Like she'd won something. That was the moment the switch flipped. I wasn't just angry, I was done being pushed around. The next morning I walked straight to her so-called office, which was really a converted guest house behind her own home. When she opened the door, that red blazer practically glared at me. "Mr. Riley," she said, fake smile and all. "What brings you here?" I held up the notice. "You had no right to touch my property." She folded her arms. "Per our bylaws, combustible materials visible from the street are subject to removal." "It wasn't visible," I snapped. "And it wasn't your land." She tilted her head, that smug look never leaving her face. "That's a matter for the board to interpret. And as president, I'm empowered to enforce." That word empowered made my skin crawl. She didn't want compliance. She wanted control. I left before I did something stupid, but inside I was already planning my next move. I called an old Army buddy, Alan Morales, now a county zoning investigator. "Alan," I said, "I've got a rogue HOA president on my hands." He laughed. "That's the most suburban sentence I've ever heard. Send me everything." That night the cold hit hard. The forecast said 33 degrees, and I had enough wood left for maybe 2 days. I tucked Ellie into bed under 3 blankets. She coughed once in her sleep, and I sat there staring at the empty spot where my woodpile used to be, my fists tightening. I'd survived worse. I'd been through war. But this felt like a different kind of battle, one where the enemy wore pearls and carried clipboards. By morning, Alan had emailed me back. "Your property line's solid," he said. "They had no jurisdiction. File a formal complaint and hang on to that footage. It's gold." But I wanted more than paperwork. I wanted the truth out in the open. So I posted on the neighborhood forum, not the official HOA page, but the community-run one Karen couldn't control. I wrote, "My winter firewood was taken without notice. Here's who authorized it." Then I attached a still from the video, Karen standing proudly next to the truck. Within an hour the comments poured in. She fined me for my garden shed. She said my wind chimes violated visual harmony. She made us repaint our house for having the wrong shade of white. The tide was turning. For the first time, people weren't afraid to speak up. That night, a woman named Denise showed up at my door with a container of chili. "I saw your post," she said. "You're not the only one she's crossed." I didn't know it yet, but Denise would become my strongest ally. Then winter truly arrived. 20 degrees, biting wind. The space heaters barely worked, and Ellie was bundled up like a snowball. I started to wonder if I should just let it go. Cut my losses, move somewhere without an HOA, stop fighting battles that drained the life out of me. Maybe Karen was right. Maybe I'd built that pile too close to the line. Maybe I'd been careless. But then I found a brown envelope taped to my door. No name. Inside was an email chain between Karen and a landscaping contractor. She'd ordered them to clear the northern property line, my property, 3 weeks before the so-called violation. Her words were clear. "We'll open the view for the holiday lights. If we clear now, we can extend decorations across both lots, mine and hers." That was it. No more doubts. I wasn't wrong. I was robbed. Armed with the evidence, I showed up at the next HOA board meeting. Karen sat at the center of the table like a queen on her throne. When it came time for resident comments, I didn't walk to the podium. I walked straight to the board's table and dropped my folder in front of her. "Last week you ordered my firewood removed," I said. "Without notice, without authority, without decency." I laid down the survey map. My land. Then the photos. Same pile, same place, 10 years running. And finally the USB drive. Video proof of your men trespassing. And you supervising. A hush fell over the room. For once, Karen didn't have a comeback. "Mr. Riley," she started the board. "Will?" "No," I cut her off. "The board will listen. Because this isn't about compliance. It's about theft." One by one, other homeowners stood up. Denise spoke first. "She fined me for a wooden swing my husband built." Another man added, "She ticketed me for leaving trash bins out for 12 hours. Voices rose all around. "She had my flag removed. She made me tear down my shed. It was chaos, but the right kind. The kind that sounds like people waking up." Karen's mask cracked. She called to adjourn, but no one moved. And that's when I knew I'd hit her where it hurt. Days later, I got a message from Alan. The city had released my FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act documents. I opened the file and my hands started to shake. There it was, Karen emailing a city official 6 weeks before she ever touched my woodpile, asking if she could classify my land as a gray zone so she could begin visual restoration before the seasonal events. The city's reply, Parcel 228 is privately owned. HOA actions are prohibited. She knew. She knew exactly what she was doing. I filed a lawsuit. Civil trespass, property damage, abuse of authority. Then I called a local reporter at the Glenwood Sentinel, sent him the footage and the emails. 2 days later, the headline read, "Homeowner accuses HOA president of illegal land grab." The photo under it, Karen smiling beside the truck, was all anyone needed to see. The neighborhood exploded. People taped paper snowflakes to their mailboxes with messages like, "Stop HOA abuse and warmth is a right, not a privilege." For once, Cedar Hill wasn't afraid. That weekend, neighbors showed up at my house with axes, gloves, and thermoses of coffee. "Heard you needed help," one said. We spent hours splitting wood, stacking it high. The sound of laughter replaced the silence Karen had built over the years. For the first time, the community felt real. Not because of rules, but because of people. Then came the court date. The hearing room was cold, but not as cold as Karen's expression when I walked in. The judge, Raina Lattimore, was the kind of woman who could cut through lies with a single sentence. Karen sat 2 rows ahead next to her high-priced lawyer who started the show. "Your Honor, the HOA acted in good faith." The judge raised a hand. "Did your client confirm the property belonged to the HOA?" The lawyer hesitated. "No, but..." then stopped talking. My attorney, Marlene, stepped up, calm, sharp. "Your Honor, we have city correspondence confirming private ownership and video proof of President Davenport overseeing removal." She handed the judge the FOIA emails. The judge read silently, then looked straight at Karen. "Miss Davenport, did you authorize this?" Karen's voice trembled. "I believed it was for the good of the community." The judge's tone hardened. "You don't get to redefine community as Whatever you want. That's not leadership. That's hubris. Then she struck the gavel. Temporary injunction granted. The HOA will cease all actions against Mr. Riley's property. I should have felt relief, but I wasn't done. A week later, I got a settlement offer reimbursement apology letter, case closed. It wasn't enough. They wanted silence, not justice. I refused. Karen had to answer in public. Then one evening, Dave, the HOA treasurer, showed up at my door, hands in his pockets, eyes down. "We called an emergency session," he said quietly. "Karen's been suspended. Denise is acting president." I blinked. "You're serious?" He nodded. "We lost our way. You reminded us what this place was supposed to be." By the final hearing, the courtroom was packed. Karen didn't wear red this time, just gray. Her lawyer looked exhausted. The judge reviewed everything again, and when she finally spoke, her words hit like a hammer. "I find in favor of the plaintiff. The HOA is to pay $12,500 in damages. Miss Davenport is fined $1,000 personally for acting outside her authority. And henceforth, no HOA may enter or alter private property without written homeowner consent." The gavel dropped. Karen's face went pale. That was the sound of her empire collapsing. Outside the courthouse, the air was sharp and bright. Reporters shouted questions, but I didn't care. I just wanted to go home, light a fire, and breathe again. That night I chopped the last of the new wood, stacked it neatly, and watched the flames catch in the stove. The fire crackled golden and alive, chasing the cold from every corner of the room. Karen thought winter would break me, but she didn't understand. Some fires don't die when the wood is gone. They burn in you. And once they're lit, no one, not even an HOA president in a red blazer, can ever put them out.